Her lungs burned, her voice vanished. No one came, no air to breathe, no hope to hold. The world around her had gone quiet, save for the whine of the wind through splintered glass and the faint hum of something far away. Maybe a generator, maybe a plane. In that silence, the dust shimmered like falling snow. She thought of her mother's kitchen, of the smell of soap and lemon, of the way her mother used to hum when hanging laundry on the line. She tried to remember that sound now, but it slipped away from her, drowned beneath the heavy, smothering air. Later, someone would find her name scrawled on a notebook page, half a sentence left unfinished. Later, someone would whisper that she was only 17, that she had dreams of leaving, that she wanted to teach children how to read. But in that moment, between the heartbeat and the hush, there was only the echo of her breath fading into the dust. Tell me, dear reader, when a voice is taken by war, who is left to remember what it meant to speak? My name is Miriam Holt. I was her neighbor, though neighbor feels too small a word for what she was to me. Her name was Anna. She lived 2 houses down, a narrow blue one with a porch that sagged under its own memories. Her father left for deployment the year she turned 15. Her mother worked nights at the diner, so it was often Anna who came to sit with me, helping in the garden, reading aloud as the light faded. She had that soft kind of curiosity, the kind that makes people listen when she speaks, and feel a little lighter afterward. When the airstrike came, though no one likes to use that word in our town, it found its way to the outskirts, where the houses leaned tiredly into the wind. It found her. And when the news came, there was a hollow in my chest where her laughter used to echo. I'm writing this now because silence can't be the last thing that holds her name. The morning she brought me the chamomile, the world felt unsure of itself. The light was pale and skittish, as if afraid to linger too long in one place. The first thaw of spring had left the air damp and fragrant, that sweet metallic scent of earth remembering how to breathe. Inna arrived at my door in her mother's oversized jacket, sleeves half covering her hands, steam curling from a mug she held like a secret. I made it too strong, she said with a smile, her cheeks pink from the cold. She was always apologizing for small things, as though the world expected her perfection, and she hadn't yet realized it never could. We sat on the porch steps, our knees brushing the worn wood. The street was still waking. A dog barked in the distance, a car door slammed, and somewhere a radio hummed an old country tune. She handed me the mug, and the scent of chamomile drifted between us, sharp and sweet, like sunlight breaking through dust. I got another letter, she said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Dad says he's somewhere hot, but he can't tell me where. He keeps writing about things he misses. Our porch light, the swing, even Mom's burnt toast. He says the silence over there hums. Can you imagine that? Silence with a sound. I watched her eyes as she spoke. They were steady, but behind them lived the kind of knowing that no 17-year-old should have to carry. He always ends the same way, she added softly. Be good for your mother. She smiled at that, but the smile didn't hold. Like it's that simple. We fell quiet. The sun caught the frost along the fence and turned it to glitter. I could hear her breathing beside me, the gentle rhythm of a life still soft around the edges. She began to tell me about the things she wanted, small things at first, like finishing school, like painting her room yellow. Then bigger dreams slipped out, shyly. I think I want to teach, she said. Little ones, maybe 2nd grade. I want to help them fall in love with words. You know how you made me read out loud that first time? I was terrified. But then, I don't know, it felt like flying. Her laughter followed, light and unafraid, and I felt the world pause for her. When I told her that she would be a wonderful teacher, she blushed and shook her head, but her eyes brightened, catching that fragile confidence we only have when the future still belongs to us. We spent the rest of the morning sorting through old seed packets I'd kept from the previous year, marigolds, zinnias, asters, and chamomile. She ran her fingers over each name like they were magic spells, and finally she said, I'll plant chamomile too, for the bees, and maybe for peace. I didn't ask her which she thought needed saving more. Before she left, She lingered on the porch, as if she knew she might not pass this way again. She turned, waved once, and the light caught her hair just right, a flicker of gold in the grey morning. There are days that announce themselves with thunder, and days that whisper quietly, never warning you they'll be the ones to stay forever. That morning was the latter, and when I think of her now, it's always that moment. Her breath in the cold air, the steam curling upward, the taste of chamomile, that returns first. It was just after noon when the sirens began, thin and distant, like the cry of something unsure of its purpose. I was in the kitchen, folding laundry, the hum of the old refrigerator steady behind me. The sound didn't register at first. Our town had its share of drills and warnings that always amounted to nothing. But this time, something in it made the air feel heavier, as if it already knew what was coming. I stepped outside, half expecting to see nothing unusual. The street was quiet, too quiet. The wind had stopped moving. Even the sparrows, usually reckless on the telephone wires, had vanished. The flag on Anna's porch hung motionless, its edge stained by last week's rain. And then came the tremor, not loud, but deep, as if the ground itself had sighed. The air carried the scent of metal and smoke, sharp enough to make my throat ache. I began walking toward her house without thinking, my slippers scuffing against the pavement. Every step felt slower, heavier. I called her name once, but the sound didn't carry. There was something strange about that silence, not empty, but full, like it was holding its breath. When I reached her porch, the door was open. The screen fluttered once, caught by a soft gust, and then fell still. I remember the smell first, chamomile and dust. The mug she'd brought me that morning was still there on the step, cold now, a thin ring of yellow at the bottom. I picked it up, held it close to my chest, and for a moment I could almost feel the warmth she'd left behind. Inside, everything looked exactly as it should. Her shoes by the door, her books stacked neatly on the table, a folded letter on the counter. There was no sign of struggle, no sign of movement at all, just absence, sitting heavy in the corners like forgotten smoke. I stood there for a long time, waiting for something, a voice, a sound, a sign that this was all some terrible mistake. But only the clock ticked on, indifferent, steady. Someone shouted my name from the street, Mr. Ruiz, I think. His voice was hoarse, winded. I stepped outside and saw him standing in the road, his face gray, his finger pointing toward the horizon. Over the ridge, a cloud was rising, not white, not gray, but the strange color of endings. It looked soft from a distance, but the closer it came, the more it shimmered with dust and ash. That's when I heard it, the low, unbroken hum that Anna's father had written about, the hum of silence. That night, the sirens stopped, but the quiet that followed was worse. The lights flickered, the dogs barked until their throats gave out. I sat by the window, the mug still in my hands, tracing the lip of it with my thumb. My house was intact, the world around me still held shape. But I could feel something had shifted, something irreversible. In the days that followed, people spoke of an accident or an unfortunate event on the outskirts. Words designed to dull what they couldn't undo. They brought out their brooms and painted over the scorch marks. Children were told to stay away. No one said her name. It was as though she had been erased neatly, politely, the way a teacher erases a word from the board when the lesson moves on. But I am not built for forgetting. That silence, that sudden vacuum where her voice used to live, it stayed inside me, louder than anything else. I began to dream of her calling out, but every time I turned toward the sound, the air filled with dust. Even now, years later, when the sirens in the distance start their low cry for a storm or a drill, I feel it again. That stillness before the world changes, that ache of knowing someone you love has gone quiet forever. The days after the strike blurred together like watercolors left out in the rain. People walked slower, their voices quieter, their eyes refusing to meet. The street still looked the same, houses lined neatly, laundry on the line, flowers struggling to bloom. but something invisible had shifted. It was as if the air itself had grown cautious, unwilling to carry sound too far. They came quickly, the men in grey uniforms, their trucks whispering down the road at dawn. They said they were here to clean, to assess, to make sure it would never happen again. But I've learned that when people promise never again, what they often mean is that they want to forget as fast as they can. They cleared the rubble by the third day. The blue house still stood, though its roof bore a scar of ash. I watched from my porch as Anna's mother knelt in the yard, her hands sifting through the soil as if she might find her daughter's laughter buried beneath it. Her face was pale, but her movements were careful, tender, a mother's instinct refusing to surrender to the facts. When her husband returned 2 weeks later, he was a different man. His uniform still fit, but his eyes did not. They were too old, too aware. I saw him sit on the curb one morning, his elbows on his knees, his head bowed as though he were praying. But no words came. He simply sat there, the sunlight crawling across his shoulders until it disappeared behind the houses. He came every morning after that, and every evening he left a small object by the mailbox, a ribbon, a folded note, a piece of her jewelry. Each one vanished by morning, perhaps taken by her mother, perhaps by the wind. Our town tried to keep moving, as towns do. The diner reopened, though the scent of coffee never masked the emptiness behind the counter. Children began walking to school again, but even their laughter seemed restrained, as though they knew joy was an act of rebellion now. The preacher gave a sermon about faith, about the need to keep our eyes on the future, but I found myself staring instead at the dust that gathered in the corners of the church, the quiet reminder of what had been. Sometimes I thought I saw her, once by the fence, where the chamomile had just begun to sprout. Another time in the reflection of my kitchen window, her outline faint but familiar. I told myself it was memory, nothing more. But memory has a way of becoming presence when love is strong enough. One evening, her mother came to my door with a basket of lemons from the tree that somehow survived the blast. She planted it, she said simply, her voice fragile as glass. We stood there in silence for a long while. She didn't cry, and neither did I. There's a kind of grief that refuses to break open. It just settles deeper, like roots searching for water. After she left, I made tea with one of the lemons and sat by the window. The street was bathed in that pale gold light that comes before dusk. Everything was still, and yet I could feel something moving, not outside, but within. The weight of what remained, the stubborn persistence of breath, the faint sound of bees returning to the flowers. That night, for the first time in weeks, I spoke aloud. I said Anna's name into the dark, softly, as though she were listening. And maybe, somewhere beyond the reach of my voice, she was. Part 4. The Garden of Remembering. 600 words. Spring came late that year. The frost lingered like an uninvited guest, refusing to leave the corners of windows and the edges of roofs. But when it finally lifted, when the soil softened and the air grew gentle again, I began to plant. I told myself it was just for the garden, to pass the time, to keep my hands busy, but I knew deep down that I was planting for her. I started with chamomile, of course. I could almost hear her voice teasing me about the bees, about the magic of the small things. I planted marigolds beside them for protection and zinnias for courage. The yard began to fill with color, tiny bursts of life rising from the same ground that had once held so much sorrow. It struck me then how the earth, indifferent as it is, never refuses to bloom again. Each morning I would step outside with my tea and water the seedlings. The sound of water hitting soil became a kind of prayer, quiet, consistent, hopeful. Across the fence, Anna's house remained empty. The windows were boarded. The porch sagged a little more with each passing week. Yet every time the wind passed through the garden, the flowers bent toward it, as if listening for her footsteps. One evening I found her father standing near the fence. He didn't speak at first. His face was thinner now, his eyes shadowed by something I couldn't name. He looked at the chamomile, nodding once. She liked those, he said. His voice was soft, almost a whisper. She said they were stubborn little things, grew anywhere. She was right, I told him. They don't know how to give up. He smiled faintly, a rare, fragile thing, and placed something on the fence post before walking away. It was a small pendant, tarnished and bent, with a single letter engraved, A. I left it there. It catches the sunlight now and then, flashing gold when the wind shifts just right. Weeks turned into months. The garden thrived. The bees returned, buzzing lazily from flower to flower. Children began to ride their bikes again on our street, their laughter cautious at first, then freer. And every now and then I'd hear the creak of Anna's porch swing, though I knew it wasn't really swinging. Some sounds, I've learned, are made of memory. On the anniversary of her passing, I brewed a pot of chamomile tea and carried 2 cups to the fence. I set one down for her and kept one for myself. The air was warm, the garden alive with light. I read aloud one of her favorite passages from a children's book, the one about a girl who crossed a wide lake in a tiny boat. My voice trembled, but I read every word. When I finished, a breeze passed through, stirring the petals, and for a heartbeat, I could have sworn I heard her laughter again. Soft, bright, alive. Now, every spring, I do the same. I plant, I water, I speak her name into the earth. It's the only way I know to keep her here, not as a ghost, but as a presence that still shapes the world around her. People say time heals, but I think time simply learns how to hold what it cannot fix. Some nights when the stars hang low and the air hums with quiet life, I whisper into the garden, "You are not forgotten." And in that moment, I believe it, not as a hope, but as a truth. Her lungs burned, her voice vanished. No one came, but her silence did not win. In the space where her breath once lived, there now grows a garden, wild, fragrant, full of light. The bees hum her name, the petals open like small prayers, and I breathe knowing that remembrance is its own kind of rescue. We cannot bring back those the world has taken, dear reader, but we can keep them alive in the stories we dare to tell. If Anna's story touched you, if her small, bright life found a place in your heart, please like and subscribe, and help her voice travel a little farther. Let the world remember her. Not for how she died, but for how she once made it bloom.